Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, known across social media as DBpsychology. And this morning, I'm going to talk about how to build resilience in your life. Now, I think this is very important, because of what's happening at the moment. Everybody's tempers and nerves and stress and anxiety is going to be naturally up. So something like this and the tools I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to give you more tools than I've actually got in the blog. So if you can just bear with me today, might be a little bit longer than usual, because I feel that people can be proactive. And this is what resilience can teach you, is to be proactive rather than reactive. Resilience is a basic psychological tool that we can use. We can learn to use it. You are not born with resilience. This is something you learn. It allows us to feel that we can take back control out of our lives, that we can break the cycle of stress and anxiety and panic, and as I said, become proactive rather than reactive. Sorry. So a common feature of low resilience, in fact, is panic. Okay, it's overreaction and panic. So we want to break that cycle. The effect of not having resilience at the moment is your stress levels, your anxiety levels, your panic, they all feed one another. What happens is then your brain goes into what I call the car stutter mode. And if you think about it, a car, when you try to start the engine, sometimes you can flood the engine. And this is what's happening at the moment. People are very stressed. Anxiety levels are up, all naturally. Okay, this is all happening naturally, guys. But what's happening is you're feeding the cycle. You're watching too much social media, too much news. You're naturally you're drawn to that because you want all the information. Your brain is telling you, I need all that information, when in fact you don't need all the information. Not to the extent where your brain is starting now to shut down. It's not able to function. And like the car that is flooded, the engine that is flooded, your brain starts to stutter. It cannot function correctly. It becomes a self-perpetuating cycle of procrastination, catastrophizing, panic, and even, you have to think about it. You're going to compromise your immune system as well as a result. Stress and anxiety and anything like that will compromise your immune system, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, we just do not want that to happen at this stage. At the moment, people are being pushed through the cycles of change. There are 6 cycles of change, and I've spoken about these in depth before, but people have been, in the matter of overnight or in a matter of the last few days, everybody is being pushed through. And instead of taking days or weeks or months to reach certain levels within those stages, we have been shoved right into the middle of it, which is stage 3, which is chaos. Panic sets in, and this is, of course, going to feed on your anxiety and your stress levels. But the good news is that if you can break this cycle, and I'm going to talk about techniques, very simple techniques that you can use, which will build your resilience, but also help you to break this panic and stress and anxiety, and stop any spirals going down. We don't want spirals going down, okay, guys? What we want at the moment is, even if you can just keep it flat, if you can just keep it, I know we're talking about flattening the curve at the moment, but if you can just keep it on an even keel and keep things balanced, to prevent you going down, to prevent a spiral down, then that would be great. This is going to help your immune system. It's going to help you, your mental health and your physical health going forward over the next few months. So the good news is that the next stage, if we can break this stage of stage 3, the chaos stage, we can actually then go into stage 4, which is new options, and we can see the positives. We can start to see that we do have options. We can take back control of our lives, and we can do something for ourselves, our family, And, you know, I know people have lost their jobs and their businesses, but we see we have options and we can do things about it. We can do something about it. We can start to plan for the future. And this is what resilient people do. They accept that this is where we're at. They don't avoid their emotions. Okay, that this is not about avoiding your emotions. This is about accepting your emotions, feeling your emotions, going through the emotion, which is much quicker than shoving it down. It actually lasts, you know, a shorter period of time if you can actually feel it and express it. And you have some healthy techniques that you can use, which I will talk about them, that you can do to calm down and de-stress. And that enables you then to make a clearer and more decisive decisions that are better for you. You can then see that you have options and that you have, you can be more positive. You can look for the positives. I have a lot of notes, guys, this morning. Sorry, I just had to make a lot of notes. So other benefits are going to be, you know, you're going to be less stressed, you're going to be less anxious, you're going to feel like you can take back control of your life. You will therefore see the light. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is going to be, you know, a tomorrow, and that we have options. There are things we can actually actively do, even from our home, from social isolating, social distancing, which is brilliant. Please, I'm begging people to do this. Please cooperate and do social distancing. But you'll be more motivated as a result, and you'll be more productive. And there are things that you can do, and I'm going to come on and do another video after this about homeschooling and upskilling for people, and techniques that you can use, more techniques that you can use, 10-minute techniques that you can use for reducing stress and anxiety. I will do a second video shortly on that. So what can you actually do? First off, please cut back on what you're watching. Cut back on the news, cut back on the social media, cut back on what you're watching and listening to if it's negative. You have to become very conscious of what you're watching and listening to, because even if you have something on in the background, if you have the radio on in the background just so you're hearing different, you know, you want to hear an update or something like that, you're feeding on a subconscious level your own possibility of negativities. You're feeding procrastination, you're feeding all the catastrophes, you're feeding automatic thought patterns, you're feeding negative emotions. We don't want to do that. We want to stop that. We want to break the cycle. We want to step back, and we want to be more discerning about what we're listening to and watching. And that goes for the kids. I know there's a lot of teens watching and listening to things on social media, and they're getting very anxious and getting stressed about what they're watching and seeing. So please, if you are a parent, encourage them to, you know, to be looking at something more positive or listening to things that are more positive. And as I said, I'll come on and talk about that in the next video in a few minutes. So the first thing we can do to get it all balanced back, that's the first thing we do. Second thing we can do is take care of our basic self-care. I always talk about this, but this gives you a very good foundation. So our basic self-care, we stick to a regular routine. If you're used to getting up and going out the door a certain time, you know, stick to your regular routine. Do not sit around in your pajamas all day. It's not a good idea. Get dressed, get washed, try and eat regular meals, do some form of exercise even within the house, in the back garden if you have one. If you can and you're able to social distance, and you observe the guidelines from the HSC, you know, yes, you can go for a walk, but please be very careful of that. You need to sleep. Okay, guys, we want to be sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you're compromising your immune system. If you're not eating healthy, you're compromising your immune system. If you're not getting a bit of exercise, you're compromised. Think about all this. If you're not looking after your physical health and your mental health, you're compromising your immune system. So stick to the regular routine and get your basic self-care going. Now, meditation. If you already do yoga, Tai Chi, if you do mindfulness or any other form of meditation, you may feel that you need to up the ante on this. So perhaps do a shorter stint of a second session, or do something like a 3-minute breather. Have a link to the 3-minute breather for people. that you can use throughout the day. Now, if you've never, ever, ever done meditation before, there is a very simple technique to help calm your mind down pretty much instantly within a few breaths. It's based on the 3-minute breather, which is around the 7-11 technique. And how it works is that you breathe in, but you breathe out for longer. And that's the key, to breathe out for longer. When we breathe in, our brain and our body gets ready to take action. Okay, we're trying to break the fight, flight, or fright hormones that are surging around your body, the anxiety, we're ratcheted up, everybody's tense. We're trying to break that. So we're trying to break these hormones. We're trying to tell them it's okay you're not needed. This adrenaline is not needed. You can calm down. When we breathe in, as I said, the first thing our body and our mind does is, okay, it's time to take action. But when we breathe out, and if we breathe out for longer, our body and our minds respond by saying and believing that we are safe, we are secure, there is no need to bring in all the adrenaline, bring in all those hormones, okay? So that's what we have to do. You can do this technique, you can choose a breath in for a count of 4 and a breath out for a count of 6. You can do a breath in for 3 and breath out for 5. You can do a breath in, which is the original technique, which is a breath in for 7 and a breath out for 11. It doesn't matter. But do that for 3 minutes. If you can get in the habit from now on of doing that, maybe you're washing the dishes, or if you can pop off to the loo and do it, every time you think of it, just take a few breaths. Even if you don't end up doing it for the 3 minutes, if you do it for 1 minute or 2 minutes, get into the habit throughout the day. You can teach this method to children, make it a fun game, and it will help your stress and your anxiety and to help calm you down. But as I said, if anybody has already been doing any sort of meditation, yoga or Tai Chi, I would encourage you to do that and continue to do that at home. They're very, very good for de-stressing you and reducing your anxiety levels. Now, moving on, I would suggest that people also use a journal. Now, please don't jump down my throat and say, I'm not starting a journal. I'm not doing Dear Diary. This is nothing at the moment. This has got nothing to do with Dear Diary. This is using a journal or a notebook of some description, a copybook, scraps of paper. You can burn them afterwards in a productive way. Okay, you're taking back control of your life. You're saying, I can do this. First off, first use of a journal, brain dump. If you can do a brain dump every night before you go to bed and dump out everything that's going on in your head, that's all the thoughts, all the feelings, all your to-do lists, everything you think you have to get done, everything down on paper. If you do that the last thing before you go to bed at night, that will help you sleep better, because it tells your brain it doesn't have to think about those things anymore. Because remember, while you're asleep, your brain is still working, your subconscious is going to be doing its thing, and it's going, if you are already wound up and you haven't got it all out, if you haven't done this emotional vomit, that's what it equates to, and that's why we feel so awful when we come out of therapy, because we have emotionally vomited everywhere. Is if we get it out there, then our brain can say, okay, I don't have to think about it. I can have a rest too. I can calm down. I don't have to come up with any solutions to this problem. I don't have to keep you up in the middle of the night worrying about it. So if you can use it as a brain dump. The second thing I would suggest to you is to create a worry period. And this is something you can also do with teens at home. You set a time period. You say, okay, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour max, I would say, for anybody, half an hour max. And that is all you allow yourself to worry. You worry during that time, but during that time, in order to be proactive, you write down what you're thinking. So you write down the thoughts as they come up. And the second thing you do during that half an hour period, or 15, 20 minutes, it doesn't have to be half an hour, you challenge the thoughts. What is your fears? What are they based on? Are they true? Are they likely to come true? You challenge them. So then you can take it into the next phase after you've had your half an hour, 15, 20 minutes, and you say, okay, This is what I'm thinking. These are my fears. I've challenged them. I've started to try and change my mindset. I can now plan. I can now reach out for help because I can see what I'm doing. I can see where I'm coming from. The other thing about a journal is gratitude. If you can finish any of those exercises up by writing down 3 things you're grateful for, that is a very proactive thing you can do right now, because a lot of research has shown that gratitude and practicing this method of writing down what we're grateful for every day can in fact boost your mental health much more quickly and for a longer period of time than any other technique that we have. So please try and do the gratitude. Now, in planning, and I'm going to talk about planning in a bit more in a minute, but planning also involves building your support system. And I know I talked about this, I think it was last week, I talked about building a support system. We have 4 types of support that we need. They are emotional, tangible, informational, and social. And right now, more than ever, we need a support system. If you are a business owner, it's usually called networking. Most people get the idea that, we reach out to family and friends. And if you're in business, or if you're a salesperson or something like that, you get the idea of networking and you reach out to other people. But it's so much more than that. It's so much bigger than that. Now, for emotional support, family, friend, your partner, they have to be positive, guys. It has to be positive people. And I would say to you, if somebody is really becoming very negative, you can mute them. You can take back control and not talk to them if you don't want to. You dictate, you set a time. If they're a family member, you have to talk to them, and you cannot step back. Take control of when you speak to somebody. You decide the time, you decide the length of time, and you have a pre-written excuse to leave that conversation. But you can block trolls. Please do it. You should be blocking the trolls, guys. You can mute people if they've become too negative on social media. But I'm hoping that you are cutting back on your social media. I'm hoping that you are, particularly if it's very negative, look for the positive stories. People are being very helpful. They are posting stuff that's very helpful. They are trying to be very resilient by posting comedy is great. Posting things that are more uplifting. There was a lot of pictures last night I know about from beautiful sunsets around Ireland. It was wonderful to see. It was very uplifting to see. So think about that. That's all emotional and informational support there. But also with emotional support, if you are struggling, professionals are there to help you. A lot of professionals, a lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists have all gone online. So they're online. You can self-refer. Remember that, guys. You do not have to go to your GP for this. If you go to somebody in private practice, you can self-refer. The other thing I would say to people at the moment, if you've had a previous mental illness and you feel and you know yourself that you are starting to do a downward spiral, don't wait until you get too far along. Don't think you can't pick up the phone and speak to your GP because they're so busy at this moment in time. You can. Emergency services are also still available if you think somebody is at risk. If you feel you're at risk, it is still available. You still pick up the phone and you can talk to them. You can reach out to your GP, as I said, if you've had a previous illness and you feel you need extra support for medication, please go and get that prescription now, sooner rather than later. A lot of GPs will do that very quickly for you, particularly if they see you have a history and you've had a particular prescription before. Please go and get it. Tangible support. There is a lot of information coming out from people, professional advice from people, particularly around finances. You're entitled to get, the dole and things like what we used to call the dole, job seekers allowance and things like that. You can fill in the forms, send them off. You can download them online. There are people offering to download and print them out for other people and drop them through letterboxes. There's a lot of support out there, but you can do that. Get the information from the right people. Access that help. Go to the HSE website if you need to. Go to the gov.ie website. You can go to Revenue. I know Revenue are putting out information constantly all during the week, but an awful lot of the accountants, this is for business people, are putting up information free online. I can think of Wendy Merrigan in particular. She's a lovely accountant. She has been putting up Instagram posts just telling employers and businesses what they can do to help themselves and their employees and how they can help their businesses. They've just been putting stuff up, all up for free, a lot of tangible information. And just to say also, I am uploading as much as possible free mental health resources and as quickly as possible on my website, which you can check out at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservice.com. Just scroll to the end of the free resources section and keep an eye on it, because I will be uploading pretty much nearly every day as much as I can. You just click on them, you'll download them, worksheets. So as I was saying just a bit earlier there about doing a brain dump, I've put that up there. I put a brain dump sheet up there which explains what to do, and then I think I've tied that in with reviewing your to-do list and reviewing your priorities at the moment, but lots of them up there. Informational support, again, this is, go get the information from a reliable source, and this ties in with going and looking at reliable websites, information, but not doing it in an don't do it overboard, don't go overboard. So decide on a time when you're going to get your updates. If it's the 9 o'clock news, then go, and that's it. Just do the 9 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news. Now, if you're stressed and very anxious, the 9 o'clock news is not the best time to be getting your information, because you're just about to go to bed. So think about doing the 6 o'clock news and then doing some, stress reduction techniques after that. And then social support. There is so much positive social support going on all the social media channels at the moment. There are Facebook groups going on. There are Twitter groups going on. There are a number of them already up there, but more and more are being set up. There are also, I have to say this now, AA has put up a list for any members that need this, and I'm sure Al-Anon and Gam-Anon and Gamblers Anonymous, they're all going online. The meetings are all going to WhatsApp status locally, on the ground locally, to messenger groups, private groups. So, you can go onto those websites, check those out, get the links you need for a local meeting and be able to join in. And remember, the American, USA sites have always done online meetings for all of the addictions. And they pretty much any time of the day. It doesn't matter that the time difference, because they pretty much run on the air every hour throughout the day and night in the US. So you can go to their websites. It's not that difficult to go onto any of the particularly, pick a particular addiction if you need it and go and get that. And that is not only that it's professional help there, but and it's also social support. So I know there's an awful lot of businesses also setting up, and there are great hours too. Please, if you're a business owner, there are great hours. Do some do some brainstorming with other people. Do some brainstorming maybe with other people in your industry, or even if you are somebody who's now lost their job, brainstorm with family and friends about what you can do. Maybe it's time to step back and you say, okay, maybe I'm going to take time now to reflect on what I really want to do. And maybe you don't want to go back to that job, and you've always thought, oh, I need time. Now is the time to do that. Now is the time for research and development, not only personally, but also professionally. So think about those in terms of social aspects and professional help that you can reach out to. Now let's talk about planning and how we can really make planning more practical. Planning, and I've talked about this before, and I'm sorry this is going on so long this morning. I just want to get people the information they need. Planning, as always, has to be done from a few key points. One is, I would say, write everything down. And then I would say, prioritize what you think, or review your priorities. I always say review your priorities. So you might need to scale things down at the moment. So that's a reviewing stage you do. Can you delegate anything? Can you delete anything? And can you hand back others' responsibilities? An awful lot of times we find that busy people have taken on, they are busy in their own lives, they're busy at work, but they take on other people's responsibilities. Now is the time to reprioritize, guys, and to hand back those. The next thing is, of course, to reach out to your support system, you're building that, you're expanding that network now, guys. It's a good time to expand your network and get that support system and networking in place. Get advice. As I said, brainstorm or get advice, get practical information and use it. Then decide in terms of planning. What are the practical, actionable steps I can take right now to do that I can actually still do? For some people who have lost their jobs, there are a lot of free courses up there, guys. I'm going to come on and talk about those in a few minutes. I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to do another video about that. It'll be about homeschooling, but it'll also be about adult education. You can upskill and you can do it for nothing. So you're still being productive, okay? The whole idea is to take back control of your life and to be productive. Break down any big goals into small, tiny steps. And I mean the smallest step that you can take right now. The smallest, and I mean really small. So if you are not, for instance, if you've never walked before, if you've never done any walking or anything like that, if you can just walk as far as the gate and then back to the couch. Okay, that's a small step. Put on your running shoes. Put on a pair of runners. That's a small step. That's how small I'm talking about. What we're trying to get at here, guys, is to give yourself the small wins. Break it down into the smallest possible chunk. Give yourself the biggest win you can by making it small and achievable, because that feeds on itself. When you get into that cycle of small wins, achievement, they build much quicker, they build momentum, they build motivation, and they don't deplete your willpower, because willpower does deplete. And I've talked about, if you want to go into that in more detail, I have talked about that before, about how you can achieve that and how you can achieve goals. So what I can say to you right now is take time out, guys, keep a balance. And I'll be talking about this in the homeschooling as well. Keep a balance between personal and doing some sort of work at home. If you're working from home, if you've make sure you're doing your hobbies and your interests as much as you can. And just remember, you're doing the best you can right at this minute in time. You are so doing the best you can right now. You have to accept that. Accept that today I got up and I'm doing the best I can. And I'll deal with tomorrow. Okay? So I will leave it there. Thank you all for listening. And as I said, I will come on now pretty shortly and talk about homeschooling and 10-minute constructive, actionable steps that you can take, that you can incorporate into your life now to de-stress and reduce your anxiety further. So thank you all. And I know there's quite a few people on listening live, but thank you also for to anybody who also listens in replay. And good morning, Deirdre, Pippa and Mary. Hi guys, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all very shortly.